On this week's episode of the Think Bigger Real Estate Show, we are going to talk specifically about mental toughness, how to develop it, what to be watching for, and how it's going to help you as we enter into this shifting real estate market. All right, welcome back to this special edition of the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddart. This week is going to be, without a guest, it's going to be me. I'm going to be sharing insights from what I learned over the weekend about mental toughness. For those of you that are watching the video here, you'll see a picture of me and my son as we wrapped up what was called the Goggins Challenge. For those of you that are unfamiliar with David Goggins, he is notably the toughest man in the world, ultra-marathoner, multiple times Navy SEAL, guy who is many people look to as someone who has really redefined what it means to be mentally tough. And this experience of accepting a challenge that he put out a year ago, and he is named the Goggins Challenge, changed me, and it changed kind of the way that I look at mental toughness. And I think it's perfect timing as we're entering into a market that is going to require some mental toughness. So excited to share with you the lessons. For those that aren't aware of what this challenge entails, it consists of running 4 miles every 4 hours for a 48-hour period of time. So essentially you run, you get up at midnight, let's say that's what we did, and ran 4 miles, then came home, and then at 4 a.m. got up again, ran another 4 miles, went to bed, got up 8 a.m., ran another 4 miles. Another 4 miles at 12 noon, another 4 miles at 4 p.m., another 4 miles at 8 p.m., another 4 miles at midnight, and you repeat that twice, right? So in other words, you just feel like you're running forever. It was very challenging. Now, am I in good enough shape to run 4 miles? Yeah. Did I think I was in good enough shape to run 48 miles? Not really, but I figured, you know what? I can probably figure it out. I discounted, however, the exhaustion, the toll that it would take upon my body, those miles compounded on each other without much sleep at all. So I'll just paint the picture really quickly, and then I'm going to dive right into the principles that, again, are going to help you to learn what it's going to take, I think, to really thrive in the upcoming real estate market. So again, can I run 4 miles and then rest for 4 hours? Yeah, but that's not exactly what happens. You see, it was pouring down rain when I was doing this challenge, and I would get up and run, right? My son Corbin, who I shared here, I'll share this again here. So this is Corbin right here. He's a much better runner than I am. He's 14 years old, and just a talented runner. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity, right, for he and I to bond and connect. So we would get up, and it would take him about 30 minutes to run 4 miles. He was kind of going a little bit slower for dad. Take me about between 33 to 35 minutes, at least as we got started. As we continued on, I realized that it was taking us, by the time we ran, got home, got out of our soaking wet clothes, had some food, showered, got comfortable. We're about 2 hours left to rest before I got to run again. Well, for the next hour, you lay there and you toss and you turn. Your body can't go to sleep after running 4 miles. Like, it takes a while to unwind. So then I've got about an hour left, and I need about the next, another 15 to 30 minutes to get ready for the next. So I get about 30 to maybe 45 minutes of sleep if I'm lucky. So compound that over, essentially, what was it, 12 different times, and your body's just absolutely exhausted. Like, you are shot. And that's how I was feeling. And so as I'm out running, I had a lot of time to think. Now, I knew going into this that I was more interested in what I would learn mentally, more so than what I would get out of it physically. I knew that it would be like a good physical test, but what I didn't, what I wanted more out of this was to get really to strengthen myself and strengthen my son. One mantra that we have in the Stoddart family is that I'm a Stoddart and I can do hard things. I'm a Stoddart and I love to do hard things. And it's something that we tell our kids, and we've purposely put them in difficult situations, not dangerous, but difficult situations, knowing that if they're going to thrive in life, that they are going to have to go through difficult things. And I would say the same is true for adults, right? Now, some of us maybe didn't have the good fortune of having parents who exposed us to that. I had great parents. Did they expose me to difficult things? I think they did. Maybe some of you didn't, right? And you had a pretty sheltered life, and it's like hard things are really hard for me. That's okay. It's not too late to develop that muscle. And that's one of the key lessons that I want to teach you, is it having the right mindset to go through difficult things, to go through new experiences, is a muscle, and that you can get used to it. Okay. Now, a few weeks ago, I was on the show here talking about this market with Selena Griffith, talking about how we shouldn't call it a challenging market. We should call it a changing market. And I still 100% endorse that and agree with that. I also believe that we're all better off if we are mentally tough. Okay, so I'm going to share with you some key lessons again that I learned while out all by myself, because Corbin was faster than I was, thinking about the pains that I was experiencing, the desires to want to be done, looking for a way out, right? All these things that were going through my mind that I had to fight off, I think are very important for us to see the market for really what it is, which is what we talked about a few weeks ago, which is this isn't necessarily a challenging market, it's just a changing market, right? So one of the key lessons is that pain, this experience that we're not used to, is not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, so you can picture me out there running, and all of a sudden things are getting a little tight, things are getting a little sore, and things are starting to hurt. And keep in mind that our mind is designed to protect our body. So when we start to feel a little bit of pain, it's our mind saying, hey, you should, like, this could go bad. You could actually injure yourself. But it gives you the pain long before the injury is ever there. It's very difficult to compete when you're injured, but you can compete with pain. It takes me back to a basketball coach that was very formidable in my life. Formative. There we go. And I remember at one point he sat down a teammate of mine who was always getting injured. And he said, look, I want you to ask this question. Are you injured or does it just hurt? And my friend was like, I don't know the difference. He said, you can play with pain, but you can't play with injury. Okay. His whole point in this is that, like, it's okay to experience a little bit of pain, because again, your mind will tell you that it hurts before you're actually injured. In other words, we have these senses inside of us that are telling us to stop, right? That are telling us to stop before we actually, or beware, or caution, be careful, before we actually need to. Okay. So in other words, we can push ourselves through a lot more hardship and challenge than we could if our mind wasn't so protective of us. Okay. So again, pain is not necessarily a bad thing. It's simply a warning system. So be aware of it when you're feeling discomfort. That doesn't mean you should stop. That's the key lesson here. Just because it's different and it's a little uncomfortable does not mean you should stop. Okay. So hopefully maybe that will be a benefit to you at some point, where it's like, man, I used to be able to sell listings by simply putting them on the market. And now I'm having to follow up and ask buyers if they're going to submit an offer. And I'm having to, as learned from Cody Gibson this past week, you might have to create a drip system to communicate with your sellers because the home isn't getting showings. Like an actual, when I say drip system, I mean an actual communication system to be able to keep them informed as to what's happening over an extended period of time because the home is not selling. Like, that's different. And that might feel like that's painful, right? It doesn't mean you should not do it. It just means that it's different. It just means that you're experiencing something new that you're not used to experiencing. So we should not shy away from pain, is what I'm saying. Or when I say pain, I mean just discomfort or something new. That just means that we're unfamiliar with that we haven't learned that yet. Okay. So that's a key lesson. Another thing that was really important for me is that I had a big vision of where I was headed. I knew from when I started that I was going to go for 48 hours, right? Didn't matter what happened, unless I like broke something and my body absolutely was deeply injured, I was not going to stop. Like, it wasn't like, well, let's see how this goes. And maybe if I like the first leg, I'll do the second leg. Now, did I have thoughts of that? Yes, I'll get to that here at another point. But from the very beginning, you guys, I had a vision that I was going to run 4 miles every 4 hours for the next 48 hours, period. Like, I had decided. And so no matter where your head's at in this market right now, you need to decide, like, I'm going to be selling real estate for the next 20 years. I'm going to be selling real estate for the next 10 years, whatever it is. Do not make your decision contingent upon what's happening in the market. That's a fast way to get yourself out of it. That's not the way to be successful. It's like, if this goes well, I'll keep doing it. Guess what? At any given point, things aren't going to go just as you wanted them to. You'll find yourself bouncing around from career to career to career and never actually getting good at anything because you didn't learn how to actually be tough enough to get through the challenging times. Does that make sense? If it does, give me like a thumbs up. Those of you that are watching live, like, it's okay, right? It's okay to have it feel different and feel uncomfortable. So have a big vision. This is what I'm deciding to do. You know, I really admire the late Kobe Bryant. He talked about how he would set out a training regimen at the beginning of the summer. He said, once I set that training regimen in place, there was no negotiation. Once I set it, I was committed to it and I did it. Now, there were times where I was like, man, what was I thinking when I set that out? I was awfully ambitious when I started setting out this training program. But he said the point for negotiation was over. I was no longer able to negotiate with myself and say, like, I don't want to go that hard. No, I set the plan and I committed to the plan. And I'll back that up by saying every good thing that's ever happened in my life has come about because I committed in my faith, in my marriage, in my physical fitness, in my finances, in my career. Everything good in life follows. It's on the heels of being committed. But what are you committed to? We have to have a big vision as to what we're working towards, and moving towards that big vision is what actually gives us the ability to move through difficult things, right? Looking beyond. Again, if I had to make a decision at every step when my quads were blown out and hurt just to take a step, like, it would be a very easy decision to say, stop, that hurts. But I was working on something bigger. Okay, I was working on a bigger vision. I'm doing this for 48 hours. I was committed. There was no negotiation after that point. I was all in. And so the important thing to remember is have a big vision. If you don't yet have a big vision for your career, let's talk, right? Let's talk. Message me, find me on social media, message me. Say, look, I don't have a big vision. I'm thinking about every painful step that moves forward, and it's causing me to want to stop. I help agents go through what's called the Think Bigger Blueprint, which is to get massive clarity on where they're headed, on what they actually want. Now, all of a sudden, they don't have to reevaluate the decision to be doing what they're doing every time there's a painful step. They've already decided the painful step's just part of the process, right? It's part of the beautiful process. Have a big vision. The next thing that really helps, and by the way, let me just say this, that I don't in any way consider myself to be the authority on mental toughness, right? Just the opposite. The reason why I did this is because I felt like I needed to be more mentally tough. There are people probably listening to this that have done far more difficult things than the Goggins challenge, right? I know there are. And so please take this is one guy's perspective on what it means to grow in mental toughness, right? Not that you all should become like me because I'm so mentally tough. No, I'm just a guy on a journey, just like you're a guy or a gal on a journey, trying to become more mentally tough so you can get the life that you want with the impact that you want, right? That's where I'm coming from. So in addition to having this big vision, it's having other people that are committed with you on this journey. The way I heard about this journey was a gentleman by the name of Juan, who's out of Long Beach, California. He's the kind of guru, the guys like interviewed on CNN, just a dear friend in a mastermind of mine. He's the one that proposed this. We did it for a charitable event. And I knew that Juan was doing this with me at the same time. There was some accountability there. I also purposely brought my son along, one for the bonding experience, but number two, I also brought my son along. I'll bring up his picture here again. I brought him along because I knew that I would be better doing it with him than by myself. Okay. Now I get it. We're all in business for ourselves for a reason because we want that freedom. Yet doing it alone is different than being in business for yourself. You don't have to do it alone. If you're doing it alone, my guess is it's not going to be very sustainable. You actually need to surround yourself with other people that are also working on a big vision, people who have bought into your big vision, that are along with you, committed with you. That's where this gets way better. There were times, in fact, my son will tell you this. The very first time we woke up, I said, Corbin, I think we should do this later in the summer. I think we're both too tired. I don't think we're ready for this. He was like, Dad, no, we're doing this. Right? So like my son, who's 14, was like talking me off the fence. Now, at another time, again, I was concerned partially for him injuring himself, right? I don't want to injure himself when he's a great athlete and overstress him. But I was also looking for a way out at times, right? So I told you, like, a big vision helps with that. But there were times of weakness where I was like, hey, look, maybe we should just stop. I'm like, let's call it. We're halfway through. It's a good effort. He was like, no, we're not doing that, right? There was another time later in the race, very last leg, he had a deep, really painful hip cramp. And I could tell he wanted to quit. He wanted to be done. And I was like, no, we're not. Now, I knew he wouldn't have that close to the end. But my point in saying that is that when we surround ourselves with other people who have bought into a big vision or even our big vision, there's accountability. And our chances of succeeding at that are much higher than not succeeding at that. So have people that are committed, right? Could be a coach, coaches, mentors, peers. Have people around you that know your vision and are committed with you, okay? The next thing that I learned is to have a routine. Okay, so not only do you need to have a big vision, but it was very clearly marked out what we were supposed to do. Every 4 hours, run 4 miles. Do that straight for 48 hours. End of story, right? It was very clear. Because it was so clear, the plan was clear, I didn't have to think about, well, maybe we should do 8 miles now and then rest for 8 hours. Like, no. The plan was laid out, right? Now, it doesn't mean that there isn't a proper time and a place to have some iterations. However, I do think that in a moment of discomfort, if we also have to decide what do we do next, there's a higher likelihood that we're not going to do anything next. Let me say that again. I think that's an important point. In moments of discomfort, if we've not already decided what we are going to be doing specifically, there's a higher likelihood that we won't do the right things or we won't do anything. So the more clarity that you can get going into changing circumstances, that this is exactly what I'm going to do. And just like Kobe Bryant said, I'm not going to change, right? I'm not going to negotiate with myself once the plan is set. This is what I do. And then just commit to the plan. Okay? Just commit to the plan. Once we get to that point, now all of a sudden it gets a lot easier because we're taking out the possibility of indecision, of analysis paralysis. Okay, we remove that from the equation. We just can almost robotically go do it. Okay, super important. The last thing I want to share with you that I believe is critical. So at one point, my wife said, she's like, what hurts the most? I was like, my quads. Like my quads are burning. Okay. Now, so she took like the gun, the massage gun. You guys have seen those before? Stun guns. I don't know exactly what they're called. But she like went to town on my left thigh. Like it was so painful. Like she was just like thrashing that thing. And I thought, holy cow, this hurts worse than running. And it was like very painful. And she was doing that together with like the deep blue rub, right? The kind of like the Bengay rub, right? That is kind of icy hot stuff. She was doing those two together. And I was extremely uncomfortable. And to the point to where she was going to move to the right leg. And I kind of like I didn't let her do much on the right leg because the left leg was so uncomfortable. I'll tell you what, that was the biggest mistake of the race because for the rest of the time, my right leg, the one that she did not do any preventative work on, was killing me. Like my IT band was aflame. Every step, right? Every step with my right leg was sore from that point on. My left leg actually felt pretty good. And so we have to take a look at, sometimes there's some things that we have to do in the short term that are a bit painful, but that they allow us to really thrive moving forward, right? Some of this might be getting certain help, making certain investments, getting certain coaching, being willing to do certain activities day in and day out. Those little things that seem a little bit painful actually prevent the bigger pain, of not having enough business, of not having the right mindset, of not having the right skill set. If we can experience a little bit of discomfort here, it'll alleviate a lot of discomfort over here. Okay. And that was a very pertinent lesson for me, was that preventative work, the preventative discomfort is super important. So many other lessons, you guys, that I learned from this. I want to keep this somewhat brief, but I will share this. The same question that I ask everybody that crosses the Think Bigger Real Estate stage, which is this: what do you do to continue to be a big thinker? What do you do to continue to expand your possibilities? And I just want to end with this comment, is that you will never reach your potential if you're always shying away from discomfort. You will never realize the massive deposits of human potential that sit right underneath your feet if you are never willing to put yourself in a spot that is very uncomfortable. And I'm as guilty of that as anybody else, that comfort is very comfortable, right? Hence the name. But if we stay there, we'll be shortchanging ourselves, those people who love us the most, the causes that we care about most in life. And frankly, for those that know me well, that is my passion and the mission that I'm on, is to wake myself up and wake anybody else up that I can possibly reach to this reality, is that there is massive potential inside of each and every one of us, massive, beyond what we can even comprehend. And unfortunately, the only way to get to that potential and realize that, to wake ourselves up to that, is to do some things that are uncomfortable. And as somebody who just went through that, I'll tell you that coming out the other side, I feel a lot stronger. Not just physically, now I'm still a little sore for sure, but just facing the week, facing the challenges in life and in business are easier this week because of what I just went through. Conversations, keep in mind, I was running over the weekend, had nothing. I was talking to almost nobody. Yet this week, conversations that maybe would have been a little uncomfortable for me last week are far more comfortable for me this week. In other words, getting uncomfortable in something even physical is it's bleeding over into other areas of my life. So if there is any disconnect where you feel like you're underperforming your potential, where you're like, why am I here? Why am I even having this conversation anymore? I deserve so much better. I'm living far below my potential. I'm frustrated that I'm just not there yet, right? I've been there. We've all been there. If you feel yourself in that spot, just know that you're close, because it's that feeling of being discontent with where you're at that will drive you through the fear of doing something uncomfortable. And the moment that you go through something uncomfortable is the moment that you get stronger. And the moment that you get stronger is the moment that you're able to go seize those things that before you could only see and maybe not even see. So the key to expanding my possibilities, both for myself as well as you, the audience that I serve, is to be uncomfortable. It's to be okay being uncomfortable. And we've heard that before. I hope this story and this experience has inspired you to be okay with that, because there is a whole lot of life, a whole lot of impact that is just around the corner for you. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I love being the host of this show. I love serving you. If you want to stay better connected, find me on social media. You can find me, if you're a real estate agent, inside of the Successful Real Estate Agents Facebook group. Find me there and follow me on Instagram and other places. Would love to connect and hear your stories of personal development, your stories of overcoming. And my final request of everybody listening here today are these 3 simple words, and they are: go think bigger. Love you all, my friends. Talk soon. Bye-bye.